How are ya? What's on your mind?
You need something?
Great to meet you. Interest ya in a pint? Safe travels. What's happening? Watch your back.
What can I do for you? Safe
You
travels.
got my attention.
Kazan.
Watch your back.
Ah, bırak.
Great to meet you.
Да. Да не... Почти игра на 27. Да не ми... Не, повече. Да не ми мини хайпа. Стига ще правим 24-ка.
Hello.
И ние сигурно ще играме двамата, защото аз съм гном. Не, той ще е гном, аз съм двор. Обратното ли върках? Спиме се и не знам какво говоря.
What can I do for you?
What can I do for you? Hello. Have a good one.
Hello. Be careful.
How are you? See you around.
Well met. For the Alliance, King's honor, friend.
Looking for something specific?
Open for business. See you later.
What can I do for you?
Şu Dubai'den.
Te ciupim mleșnită zău. Costa.
Nu știu, igram stres test. Brutálna igra je asta. Брутален ми то другото време. Сега нали се взе да се запазя, ще ми за стрес. Да. Кое?
Той не си от тях. Няма смисъл гада.
Карай.
Той гледа с вратар.
Аре, тигъра пак яде в 2 часа.
Лайкови.
Здорово.
Той спи, бе. Някой отивам да ям. След 5 часа и да вика. Еми, заспах.
What can I do for you?
Дарке, сега ще напиша на оферта.
Кое?
Сега ще напиша на оферта.
Добре.
Добре.
Need help?
Well
Light
met.
be with you.
Great to meet you.
Greetings.
Roll hall.
You know, doing it so quickly.
Yeah.
You know, with cross-realm
May your
zoning
blades
and
never
all this
dull.
cross-realm stuff, you know it. You never see the same person twice, it seems. So
Mhm.
it's not like, okay, that guy acted like a dick. we're gonna avoid him. I'm not gonna group with him again, like you had with Classic, with no group fight or no cross-room zoning and whatnot, right? And it's just a combination of that and just the content being, the base level content being easier in general with like dungeons and whatnot. Like dungeons are, you could face roll at this point. You could roll your face on the keyboard and you would eventually defeat it. So if someone does mess up, and it's really, really hard to mess up, you can rest assured that they're gonna get kicked. They're probably gonna be abused because again, there's really no ramifications for it, in my opinion. And I guess that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're totally right. I mean, let's say in vanilla WoW, let's say you do a dungeon and like you spend a half hour trying to find people in trade chat to do Blackrock Depths, and then you get in the dungeon group and you're a total asshole and you decide that you're going to ninja pull the boss and then bubble hearth out, right? Those 4 other people in your group, they're going to hate you. Like they're going to remember your name. They're probably going to contact your GM and tell you, tell the GM, yo, this guy was an asshole. They might even go in trade chat and say, yo, this guy's an asshole, don't group with this guy. They might even go in the forums and say, yo, this guy's an asshole, don't group with this guy. In BFA, if you behave in a similar way in a dungeon finder or a group finder or a raid finder or whatever, like you might get kicked out, you might get vote kicked, but you just queue another one. It literally has 0 consequence.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying, and we could talk about this all day, right? I think this is one of those this is a boomer conversation, but like, it's just one of those things that'll go on in circles. Yeah, back in my day, man, I remember when World of Warcraft was hard. It's like, okay, dude, it's still hard. That's another thing that's really funny is like people act like retail WoW. People act like retail WoW is really easy. Right, and I don't think, and I've said this so many times, retail WoW mechanically it's very difficult, right? At the highest level, right? The problem is that they have 4 different raid difficulties and stuff like that. So people go in and they feel like, oh, like this game's for casual, this game's easy now. It's like, well, no, like you did it on LFR, you did it on normal, right? To me, like WoW, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a game where you can go in and basically like have these different difficulties. There's some mystique to being able to complete the raids. It should be special. I mean, people still talk about how there were so few guilds that cleared Nax, and so few people that even went inside of Nax, that it just ends up being this like totally crazy mysterious place, right? It's like, oh, dude, Nax Raider, like Pog you, right? Like it's like, oh, that's amazing. So I don't know, and even then, like in the grand scheme of things, Nax wasn't harder back then than any raid right now. It's just that there's an added level of like just value, I guess, to the raid. It makes it that much more special whenever not everybody can go in there and do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, man. No, please go ahead, man.
Well, it kind of takes you out of the world, right? It's in Classic. Again, not to go like boomer mode here, but Naxxramas is Naxxramas. You don't have Naxxramas LFR, you don't have Naxxramas normal, you don't have Naxxramas heroic and mythic. I guess you had, no, I guess Wrath didn't even have Naxxramas heroic. That started with Trial of the Crusader, right? It really takes away, like, these raids are a big thing. Pre-Wrath of the Lich King, I guess. And to go in there and clear it was a big deal. And I think really, it's not everyone needs to be raiding. People who put in 5 hours a week and then they take 4 months to hit level 60 or whatever the cap is for the expansion. Like I don't think that really, like, everyone is entitled to raid, really. And I think like those people are perfectly fine without raiding. I think Kevin Jordan has made this point quite a bit. So I'm going to steal this from him, but like that weekend warrior is what he calls him, is perfectly content with not raiding.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of these changes like LFR were made for those players in mind, right? It's not enough people are raiding. Let's get him in there. It's he only plays 5-10 hours a week on the weekends. We need to get him to see this raid content. And I think it really kind of takes away from, the levels of difficulty that you can challenge yourself within the game. And try not to sound like as elitist as I can, because I think it's more than that, right? And again, as far as like having 4 difficulties is concerned, that's not even getting into like burnout and with the current game with like Titan forging and stuff. I mean, with Titanforge, you really run these raids like, you know, 4 times if you're really hardcore. And maybe not LFR. Not sure about that these days, but it's definitely an issue. And again, that's not to say that like the current game is easier. I mean, just step into Mythic mode and tell me the current game's easier. Look at all these raid mechanics and tell me like what's more complex, Luciferin or you know the Ashara in Mythic. Like I mean, objectively looking at it, the current game I
They're
believe
very
is harder
similar
than
fights,
classic.
man. Like they have a lot of similarities.
Dude, I just remembered your tweet, Stay Safe. I love that tweet so much. I laughed so hard when I saw it. Well, this isn't like Luciferon at all. I thought it was so funny. It's a picture of Stay Safe, just like staring like blankly into space. Just like it looks like his entire life is shattered. It's so funny. This is whenever he's casting at Red Bull. He's casting the world in first race. It's like, well, this isn't anything like this from all. I laughed so hard. I love that.
Well, I mean, going off your point, Matt Season, like, I think the problem with raiding, like the way raiding's kind of been pushed as the forefront feature of World of Warcraft, I think the problem with raiding is not a sustainable end game. You know, it's not sustainable game design. If your entire game is centered around raiding, it will eventually fail, especially if it's an MMORPG. And that's what we're seeing with World of Warcraft. Look at how many steps and how many attempts have been made to get away from raiding. Look at the rise of Mythic Plus, these island expeditions, these new world quest system, all that stuff. They're trying to get away from raiding because they realize that if raiding is the centerpiece of your game, people will max level, they'll get into the raid, and then they'll just be raid logging, you know, till eventually they get bored because they're not doing anything for the rest of the week. And that's really the problem with raiding, and that's the great thing about vanilla in my eyes. Is like you said, the weekend warriors, you didn't have to raid back in original vanilla to enjoy the game. Just leveling up gave you the same satisfaction of end game progression because you could continuously build your character slowly but surely over time. PvP was great. The honor system constantly gave you, you know, something to rank towards and stuff like that. You never had to raid to feel like, yeah, this is the game. You know, the entire game is reserved in this section. And that was kind of how MMOs were before WoW to a certain extent. Obviously, EverQuest had raiding and other games had raiding, but the vast majority of MMOs were essentially pixelated lobbies where you could go out and do certain things here and there, but at the end of the day, it was really about the community creating their own experience, and the scripted PvE content was just kind of that extra, you know, a way to incentivize the community coming together, but not really more than that.
Dude, I have a couple thoughts with that, just to add on to that. Just you said, okay, raiding, PvP, dungeons. You forgot to mention fishing, and you probably think I'm joking here, but there's a dude named Smooth McRoof. You guys may know as like his acapellas from YouTube, but he also streams classic, and he's a great streamer. I watch him quite a bit. He's very, very passionate about classic. I think he plays on private servers as well, or he has a background in that scene, and he's making a guild called Nat Pagel is My Dad, and it's solely based around fishing. Every weekend they're gonna go win the Stranglethorn Vale fishing tournament. They're gonna have fishing-based events and fishing competitions that they make of their own.
That's awesome.
And I'm gonna be joining it. So it's just 100% what you said is true. Doing very basic things in World of Warcraft. I mean, people can enjoy it, right?
So is he gonna play on an RP server doing that?
Yep, RP. Yep. Just to avoid, like, you know, you can't really do that in PvP, right? If you get stream sniped and stuff. So.
Speaking of which, so what was their reasoning for no RP PvP at launch? Was that there was no RP PvP at launch of retail vanilla? Is that what they said?
Yep. No, that was just that was something they said, but the big justification they gave was they didn't see the demand for it in terms of like objectively going through like retail percentages. Like in retail, the percentage of people that play an RP PvP is so low relative to the overall population that like they can't justify making an extra server. I'm not saying they shouldn't. They should make an RP PvP server. I think a lot of people play.
At least
you know what's funny? You know what's funny? No one played PvP servers at all because they got rid of them. They just added war mode.
Yeah, retail. It's a different animal. Like, I just one. Just make one RP PvP server. Because like there's people that
RP in classic is way, I believe, is way more active in classic than it is in current, from what I understand.
Well, now I do think retail WoW for roleplay purposes, I do think there's a lot of stuff in the game that kind of helps. What can I do for you? Like with all the toys and transmog and all the weird stuff, right? All the little extracurricular type stuff. But like there's like there's a solid community of people that want to roleplay, but they also want to play on a PvP server. And you can argue that playing on a PvP server is more RP than on a PvE server, right? Because like you see somebody else, you can go kill them, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I wish they would just make one. I don't see how it would be that big of a deal. I don't see what it would take away from everyone else for them to just make one RP PvP server.
I just saw an interesting question.
Too, right?
In
go ahead.
BFA and Legion, if you play on an RP server, there is no sharding or cross-server gameplay. Whereas on any other server, you have random people appearing in and out from different servers, etc. That's in your server cluster. I wonder, and we haven't heard about this, I wonder if there's obviously no PvP RP servers in Classic. I wish there were, but the PvE RP servers, I wonder if they won't have layering.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, that's a
I
really
mean, that
good
would break RP, right? If you just see people like zoning in front of
Yep. Yeah, of course it would, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just now I'm not. I used to think RP was dumb whenever I was younger, but as I've gotten older, I think it's so funny. I think good roleplay is like, I just think it's hilarious. Like I did GTRP for a while and it was a blast, and it was just all the ridiculous like little interactions other people have. I don't know. I think it's funny, but and here's the thing. It's not even about me, right? And that's kind of the way, that's the way that I try and look at things. I try and look at things objectively. There's a community of people that love to roleplay, and I think having an RP PvP server for those people is important for Classic. I mean, if worst comes to worst, I'm sure they want to RP, they'll go play on the PvE server, but it would be much more ideal for them to go play on the PvP server. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we saw the beta, everybody played PvP. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a PvE server, or sorry, an RP PvP server alongside an RP PvE server. My biggest concern would be that the PvE server would die. That would be my biggest concern.
Yeah, true. I mean, I don't think there's any good reason to not have at least one PvP RP server. I think there's definitely a demand for several of them. I really don't know. I mean, it's so easy for them to do, right? Like, why not just do it? Just do it for it. I have no idea why they're not.
Yeah, I think if people make, I don't know, the server names are coming up soon, so hopefully it's not too late. It might be too late, but they have been pretty good about listening to feedback. You know, you have the whole regional thing with European servers. So I think if people make a big enough fuss about it, it's possible to still get it, because they haven't announced the realm yet. But I'm not sure. It's getting pretty close. So.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to do it before or not, announce it before or not. Like, if it's just going to be like, here it is, go sign up. Or if they're going to let you know beforehand. Very curious.
The real question is, in Classic, what'll be the new, I see people talking about this in chat, what'll be the new Moonguard Goldshire server? There has to be one, right?
There does have to be one.
Bound
there does have to be
to the
one.
iron will.
I'm interested in seeing some of the names. I'm very interested in seeing some of the names. Because I think what's going to happen is... I don't think they're going to. Some people, oh, what if they name it after, you know, nostalgia? She's like, I don't think they're going to do that. I don't foresee that happening. But
name it after streamers.
Well,
Reddit would explode.
I know. I don't think they should do that either. But I do think. I think that at a certain point you kind of run out of things that are like cool to name your server after. Illidan, Kel'Thuzad, you know, Frostmourne, right? Like at a certain point, like you're gonna, what are you gonna use? Old Blanchy? Like I don't know what you're gonna come up with. Like more like Marshall Dugan. Like I don't know what they're gonna call the servers. You know, it's gonna be interesting for me to see. But I don't know. I can't even think of any other names.
Well, here's a question for you. How many servers do you... I'm sure you guys get this question all the time. Like, if you can put a number, how many servers do you think they would have?
Interesting.
Probably for North America, if I just had to take a guess, considering they're doing layering, for launch, they'll probably have around 20 for NA. I would guess around the entirety of EU, like including all the different regions, probably around 15 to 20 as well. If they have less than 20, I'd be kind of, if they had less than 15 NA, I'd be pretty surprised.
I agree. I think probably 20 per region, like 20 China, 20 EU, less for Australia, like 10 or maybe 5 for Australia. I don't know. Definitely 20 or 25.
Yeah, I think 20 is not a bad number per region, at least for like
now?
NA and EU, and then you'd have China and
What is it?
yeah. I think given good estimates.
I just remembered we do have some sort of frame of reference because it was I think it was our interview, S1 with them when we were down at the media summit down there 3 months ago or whatever. They said they didn't want to make the mistake of making too many servers like 30. And that's the number they give as being too many is 30. So probably they're thinking less.
Yeah, that's a good point. And here's the idea. The idea behind layering is like a dynamic server cluster. Right, they think that people, and this is a very reasonable thought, I think a lot of people think this, the hype of anything, classic WoW, whatever, if something's hyped up, you will have this big influx of players at the very beginning, and then you're going to have a drop-off. So the concern is if they were to have actual server clusters, they would definitely have to merge like every server. That's how they feel. Like if you have like a 50% drop off after like a month or something, just people who made a character got to level 3 or 4, 10, whatever, and then decided whatever. They just kind of were getting a taste and they decided Classic's not for them. You're gonna have such a big drop off in population for all these other servers that every server is gonna feel dead. So with the layers, they have it's almost like a dynamic cluster where each layer is the size of a server. So if you have of an original vanilla server, and then by phase 2, they can get rid of everything and hopefully it'll balance out. My concern is in phase 2, I bet we're going to get big queues if they go with like a 3,000 player cap. Like even if there's like a 5,000 player cap.
got all
Even well, I think even if they went up a little bit, it would be maybe good. It might be good, but there'd still be a queue, right? Now the hope would be that if you have, this is from my perspective, the hope would be that if you have like a 5,000 person server cap, it doesn't make too big of an effect on the game, like respawn times and this and that being centered around like a server with 3,000 people, and that having 5,000 people on the server at a time, it would just kind of naturally filter out and spread across the entire server as opposed to like with 3,000 people. So I don't know. Like I'm gonna be honest, back on private servers, I love the 10k cap. I loved it, but it's a different animal. Like I just think realistically,
what would you
I think they might, if they increase it, they wouldn't increase it by very much.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like, you need to do something to accommodate that many players, right? Vanilla WoW obviously only had 2,500 or 3,000 players. I think that we've heard different things from not Kevin Jordan, John Stats, and Mark Kern about why they only had 2.5 or 3K. I think one of them said it was hardware, one of them said it was gameplay design decision. Not really sure. Either way, that's what the game was designed around, was that many people. So if you have 10,000 people or 50,000 people like on some private servers, they've obviously had to do things to accommodate those players. The primary things being, I think on the stall race, they dropped down draw distance. On different servers, they've increased dynamic respawns and things like this. So, like, you have to do something if you want to have that many people. And Classic WoW is saying, okay, our approach is layering. So you're right. Like, I think honestly, I'm more concerned about the phase 1 transition into phase 2 than I am launch day, because I think, you know, you're going to have all these people that are accommodated on a giant server through phase 1 with layering, and who knows, like, who knows, you might have 40,000 people online at once with layers on one server. Like, we just have no idea. 30,000, 25,000, it's going to be a big number, right?
Especially those, because like phase 2 is the launch of world bosses, which is going to be a hype freaking event. Like, everyone is going to want to participate in that first world boss kill, just because it's going to be so insane. There's going to be literally thousands of people going after the same boss in the same zone, and if layering is off, dude, that's going to be, dude, I don't even know. That's going to be like, if the server cap is 10,000 people, like 8,000, 9,000 are going to be in that zone, and then 1,000 are going to be whatever, doing their own thing. But it's going to be like completely packed. Like, never been done before in the history of WoW, period. Like some EVE Online shit, you know what I mean? Like, excuse my French, but like, it's gonna be crazy.
Who is the boss? What was the green dragon that like spawned mushrooms when someone died? That one's gonna be interesting. There's like, 500 people on top of it.
Emrys.
Emrys? Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, Tibbs is right. Like this this tool that they've been using to accommodate all these players, you know, layering, is now taken away, and at the same time, they're introducing content that incentivizes players to log in and kill stuff, right? So it's going to be a big problem. Like I said, my big concern with Classic WoW right now is not launch. Like, I am concerned about launch, but my bigger concern is when Phase 2 comes out.
I'm still freaking hyped, dude. I don't know, dude. I'm freaking hyped. I gotta stand up or something. I'm sorry.
Go make your character a bunch of times. Go practice and help me.
Yeah, just go practice. Pretty soon, guys. By the way, we are going to take a look at Twitter here in a second. Hashtag ClassicCast, and we'll look at Twitter a little bit. We'll do a little bit of Q&A, and we'll take some questions out of chat as well. If you guys have any questions for any of us, collective, or any questions for Mad Season specifically, I will take a look at that, and we'll do a little bit of Q&A here to wrap it up. Do you guys have anything else you want to hit on before we go to Q&A?
Let's do Q&A, man.
Let's do it. I think this is a good question. To start us off, this is from Chins Gaming. He's actually a Kel'Thuzad native, a fellow Kel'Thuzad native. Question for everyone: how long do you think the phases will be? Well, I'll go ahead and start. I think that the original vanilla took about 24 to 25 months. It was like 24 and a half months or something, from November 23rd to I think it was December 5th was the 2.0 patch. So I don't think it would be crazy to see kind of like a 2-year-ish cycle for vanilla WoW, for WoW Classic. Based off that and having 6 phases and when things happened originally, I think if it's like 2.5 to 3.5 months for phase 2 to come in with Iron Maul, I think that sounds about right. I think if you go another like 3 months for Blackwing Lair, I think that would sound about right. So you get Blackwing Lair, you get phase 3 in after like 6 months. In original vanilla, you got Blackwing Lair at the 8-month mark. And then I think ZG came like a month or so after. Maybe it was like almost 2 months after. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But you could put the ZG phase with the Emerald Dragons like 3 months later, again, and then you could have AQ like 3 or 4 months later, right? And I think Vanilla WoW, the progression of Vanilla WoW, has some natural, has like some natural like kind of down parts, like right before the next patch comes out. That's normal, right? If you're on the cutting edge of content, that's a normal thing to experience. It's like, okay, this is like a little bit of a lull in the content because you've been grinding it and all that kind of stuff. But I think for the typical player, it's not going to be that big of a deal. I think if you have... Okay, everybody was lolling at unbelievable. Okay, I was like, wait, what happened? What did I say? I'm not that funny. But no. Sorry, it threw me off. So yeah, I think going like basically like 3, 3, 3, and then maybe the third one is another 3 or 4 months, and then 5 or 6, and then 5 or 6 months for the last 2. I think would not be crazy. Or the period of time for the last 2, right? So like 5 or 6 months of AQ patch, and then 5 or 6 months of Nax patch, and then hopefully a Burning Crusade.
Hopefully phase 2 comes after BlizzCon. I do want to say that.
Yeah, I think if we... Would it? Hold on. So August 27th. So let's say beginning of September. Then beginning of September. So September, October, November is the 3rd month. So on that timeline, the beginning of phase 2 would be like middle of November or beginning of December or something.
It will. I would bet my life it will definitely come after.
I think so.
BlizzCon. The thing is, it's definitely going to be during December holiday season. So if you're taking time off for Christmas or want to go out of town to visit your relatives or do anything at all for Christmas, you're forfeiting honor, which is a big problem.
Well, if you want to do the honor grind, if you want to do the honor grind, and the honor grind without battlegrounds is this is a whole subject to talk about another time probably. But there are some concerns about doing the honor grind without battlegrounds, because back in the day, it wasn't going to be nearly as competitive as it might be in Classic. So people are worried about like not spawn camping, but camping like flight paths and stuff, ganking like, because you start getting honor. I think it's level 48 when you start getting honor. So you can imagine, like chill wind. There's going to be certain flight paths that people are just going to be sitting in and just camping in between queues, and especially because you can get ported back to town if you're in a play. Oh well, this isn't going to be an issue in phase 2 because there's no battle rounds. But it could be an issue in phase 3 still. It'll still be an issue in phase 3 because people aren't getting ported back to the capital cities in beta. So yeah. Is it 51 plus or 48 plus? Stay safe. Do you know?
What honor? 48 plus.
Okay, that's what I thought. Somebody in chat said 51. But yeah. Anyway, that's like a whole nother thing. But go ahead and continue. With you were thinking phase 2 is going to be after BlizzCon. You're almost positive.
Oh, I guess I'll give my timeline. Like, I think that phase 1 was MC and Ani is going to be 5 months. Like, I think a lot of people, like myself included, it's like 5 months of MC Ani, but most people are going to take 2 or 3 months to hit 60. They're going to be in progression guilds. They're going to be hard stuck on Gar, hard stuck on Ragnaros for several. I'm not kidding, for several weeks. I think you have to give those more casual players more time to actually like experience the game for the first time. I think most people playing Classic will be doing it for the first time, so let them